After sitting out the last 5 games, Caitlin Clark is back to help the Fever get back on track. And oh boy, it felt like she hadn't left at all.
Clark launching and hitting.
But instead of getting the W 40 minutes later, the Golden State Valkyries bought them a one-way ticket to Valhalla and gave them an ass-whooping of the century in front of their sold-out home crowd.
And they're connected on their rotations. They pre-rotate from the weak side.
And speaking of the infuriated fans, they flock to the Fever social media accounts to vent their frustrations. And if there's one thing in common about their concerns, is that they're calling for Stephanie White's head for terrible coaching. Well, I can't blame them for doing so, because instead of taking full accountability for that loss, she put the entire team under the bus yet again.
No, I was disappointed because I felt like there was a lack of competitive fire. Our attention to detail was poor. I'm not sure if it's not knowing the game plan, because if it's not knowing the game plan, then that's a whole nother conversation.
Lack of competitive fire? I don't think so. And game plan? What game plan? I mean, is this the game plan she's talking about? So here's Caitlin just standing around while McDonald dribbles away the clock. She forces her way inside only to be clogged by 2 defenders. Then, because of poor spacing, she throws an emergency pass to Howard, who then gets called for an offensive foul. Like, what kind of trash play is that?
The offense, I think, for us, it starts on defense, and we, struggled.
And as you heard from CC, she skipped talking about their offense because they have literally no offense whatsoever to talk about in the first place. So what happened? How did an expansion team filled with a ragtag crew of expandables beat the Fever not just once, but twice? Folks, this is just flat out embarrassing. And see, the reason behind why they lost this game is actually worse than you think. Anyway, it all started when Stephanie White did a weird experiment at the beginning of the game. Instead of sticking to her usual backcourt, she went for a small ball lineup with McDonald at the point, Kelsey at the 2 spot. And for the very first time, Caitlin played as the small forward because she wanted Caitlin to play off ball. With Caitlin out of her natural position, and since they're too small, the Fever scrambled to get to their assignments and their defense got exposed quickly. Now the good thing, though, is that Caitlin remained defiant on the offensive end by taking matters into her hands. I mean, she pushed the leather and strung up quick 5 points with this step back and 3. Then she set up Howard with this nice dime to set the tone early.
And it gets in transition. That's just such a change with puck on the floor.
Though the refs turned a blind eye whenever Caitlin got fouled, CC still put the Fever on top 23-21 after the end of the first. But see, things started to slowly go south for the Fever in the following quarter. To start the second quarter, Stephanie White inserted McDonald along with Caitlin on the backcourt, forcing CC to become a spot-up shooter once again. And as expected, the Fever struggled to score, and their offense went stagnant with Caitlin just standing around, acting as a decoy. But when the ball did land in Caitlin's hands, though, it often resulted in a bucket.
Clark tries to take advantage. Hull will with a 3.
Now, just when CC started to get her groove on, White pulled her out around the 6-minute mark. And with Caitlin out of the lineup, the Fever relied on White's motion offense, which turned out to be an absolute disaster. Despite the Valkyries taking the lead and making a run midway through the quarter, Coach White decided to bench Caitlin until the last minute of the quarter. And during the time she was out, the Valkyries launched a 30-12 run and take the lead 41-32 at the half, with the Fever just scoring 9 points in the entire second quarter. With 2 quarters down, it's not that hard to figure out the winning formula for the Fever. Scrap the motion offense, put the ball in Caitlin's hands, and let her run the show. But see, even though it was that simple, Stephanie White just can't check her ego at the door, as she still insists on running things her way. I mean, instead of making adjustments, she played McDonald, Kelsey, and Caitlin together once again, just like at the start of the game, and ran the same screen handoff plays with Caitlin not getting much involved. Because of White's stubbornness, the Valkyrie took advantage of the Fever's lapses on both ends and established a 15-point lead with 7 minutes to go. Now fearing that the game would be blown wide open, Caitlin finally had enough and just began to take over. I mean, she just launched one from the parking lot to cut down the lead to 12. Then she played hard D to force a couple of turnovers before leading the break to get buckets in transition.
To Clark, 3-on-2. Clark lofts it up, tips and pulls it down and lays it in.
The Fever managed to trim the lead to just 5 while rallying behind Caitlin. But just as they were closing in, their defense crumbled all of a sudden late in the third as they let the Valkyries spike their lead back to 14 ahead of the fourth. Anyway, with Caitlin only having the clear momentum in this ball game, aside from Timpson, it's a no-brainer decision for any coach to put her in, especially that they're playing catch-up with 10 minutes left to go. But once again, White surprised everyone by sidelining her best player as the fourth quarter started, and it was only until the 8-minute mark that she plugged her back in, where the lead had already ballooned to almost 20 points. The Valkyries' lead was just too big to erase, as the Fever got humiliated in their home turf, 81-60. This is, without a doubt, the worst game of the Fever thus far this season, as they only shot 30.9% from the field. And check this out, 22.2% from three-point range. I mean, you don't expect a team to win a ball game with those kinds of numbers, and heck, even the 40-year-old dads playing in the local rec league shot better than them. Well, you could argue that it was just one of those nights where the shots weren't just falling for the Fever. Now, if that's already the case, then I think it's the coach's job to adjust or at least try a different strategy in order to give her players different looks and scoring opportunities on the offensive end. But as you saw in the game, Stephanie White stuck to her half-court offense, even though it was not working, and her lineup combination was just horrible. See, White wanted a system in place for Caitlin to work around, but see, she doesn't realize that Caitlin is the system, and allowing her to cook by speeding up the game while being the primary ball handler of the team gives them a better chance to win ball games. It's actually that easy. The Fever is most dangerous when they push the ball and play at a breakneck pace. But see, as long as Stephanie White keeps the ball out of CC and insists on running her slowpoke basketball, then you can already kiss the Fever season goodbye, because I don't think they'll win ball games with that kind of play style. Anyway, with this said, do you think it's now the right time to find a new coach for CC? And if so, who do you think it should be? Well, comment your answers down below. And as always, this has been the Hoop Doctor signing for now. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Peace.
It's really just going to come to us, and we really need to regroup, turn the page, learn from this, and come with a better mindset on Friday.